It's been almost 2 weeks since the horrific shootings in Parkland, Florida, and the Never Again movement started by students at Stoneman Douglas High School continues to intensify, putting more and more pressure on Republicans in the NRA. For more on this, it's time for a closer look. President Trump's approval ratings have fallen back down to historically low levels amid an avalanche of scandal and chaos in his administration. And yet, on Friday, Trump went to the Conservative Political Action Conference and made this outlandish claim about all the promises he's made that he supposedly kept.
Remember this. We've gotten, somebody got on television recently and they said, actually, this is the first time I can remember. Trump made campaign promises. He may be the only person that actually fulfilled more promises than he made. I think that's true.
Oh my God, what is he talking about? Trump is so garbled, his speeches are becoming logical paradoxes. I fulfilled promises I haven't even made. I married a woman I haven't met, and I made a rock so heavy, I can't lift it. So Trump claims he heard someone on television make that claim, and he's just repeating it. And I think he must have gotten it from this guy a few weeks ago.
I was there 4 months, you know this, Paul, and they were saying he didn't fulfill a promise. But now we've fulfilled far more promises than we promised.
Does Trump think that the Trump on TV is a different guy? He's back. He's on TV again. Oh, I like the cut of his jib. I'm going to copy his haircut. Of course, the immediate crisis facing Trump and the rest of the government right now is our country's epidemic of gun violence. The national conversation over gun safety has only intensified in the days since the Parkland shooting, and people are demanding action. And in response to those demands, Trump has spent the last week or so rambling nonsensically about his truly deranged idea to arm teachers. And today he took that rambling one step further, insisting that he personally would have run into the school to confront the shooter, whether he was armed or not.
You know, I really believe, you don't know until you test it, but I think I really believe I'd run in there even if I didn't have a weapon.
Nothing about that is believable. Forget running into a school to confront a shooter. I don't believe you'd run anywhere, period. You can't even be bothered to walk down a flight of stairs. Then again, I said before that I didn't think you'd run, and man, did I get burned. There's really nothing worse than a fake tough guy. Trump lives in a fantasy world where he's some sort of action movie star who'd rush into danger and save the day. I'm sorry, but you're not exactly Liam Neeson. If you'd been in the movie Taken, they would have had to change the name. All right, so you have her? Okay. Okay, thanks for the call. But it kept getting worse because Trump lashed out at the media, accurately describing his plan to arm teachers as a plan to arm teachers, insisting that he would only give guns to teachers who knew how to use them.
When the press covered it, the headline was, Trump wants all teachers to have guns. Trump wants teachers to have guns. I don't want teachers to have guns. I want highly trained people that have a natural talent, like hitting a baseball or hitting a golf ball or putting. How come some people always make the 4-footer? And some people under pressure can't even take their club back, right?
Well, even when he's laying out his plan to prevent school shootings, he can't hide how much he'd rather be playing golf. Also, the only people who ask how come some people always make the 4-footer are the people who never make the 4-footer. When Trump putts, I bet he makes Eric lie down on the green to try and blow his ball into the hole. Father, I'm running out of air. Of course, the only reason we're still talking about the issue of gun violence is because of the students at Stoneman Douglas High School who have demanded action and sparked a national movement for gun reform. Their passionate calls for action have disrupted the usual routine that seems to unfold after every mass shooting. And for that, they've been subjected to deranged attacks on everything from their maturity to their credibility to their tone. Like Stoneman Douglas student Sarah Chadwick, who was scolded by conservatives when she tweeted, "We should change the names of AR-15s to Marco Rubio because they are so easy to buy." Damn. Damn. That is a white-hot burn. There's only one thing to do when you get burned that hard, Marco. Yeah, drink up. After that tweet, Fox News host Laura Ingraham quoted Chadwick's line on Twitter and added how teens speak to and about adults, calling her Stoneman Douglas sophomore Sarah Chadwick, which prompted this response from Chadwick: "I'm a junior." Laura Ingraham, what is wrong with you? Don't go after teenagers on social media. You saw what happened to Marco Rubio. So in short, Marco Rubio might be easy to buy, but Laura Ingraham is easy to own. No. And then there are those who have spent the last 2 weeks lecturing students on their maturity and their qualifications for talking about gun reform and claiming their movement is somehow being hijacked by left-wing groups.
The media's focused more on a teenager's expertise in supply-side control measures for guns, which, Tucker, let's be candid, they probably have not studied a very complicated, layered issue.
Their sorrow can very easily be hijacked by left-wing groups
But do you think
who
it has
have an
been?
agenda. Well, let's ask ourselves, do we really think that, and I say this sincerely, do we really think 17-year-olds on their own are going to plan a nationwide rally?
You don't think 17-year-olds can plan a rally? 17-year-olds know how to plan things. When you're 17, you're too young to do most things, so you have to find ways around it. You got to get fake IDs, coordinate alibis, figure out how to make a bong out of an apple, an inhaler, and a straw. You got to bring scope with you so you can wash away the smell of alcohol, but then your parents smell a ton of scope and they knew you were drinking, but they're also a little impressed you remember to bring scope. The attacks on these students are clear evidence that the movement is working. The NRA and their supporters are scared, and now the NRA and their allies are resorting to increasingly ludicrous suggestions for how to deal with gun violence in schools. Trump, for example, spent the weekend repeating his deranged idea for giving guns to teachers in his CPAC speech and then again in the interview with Fox News.
We would have had some great teachers that were gun adept, meaning, you know, really understood weaponry and guns. And if they had concealed permits, you wouldn't have this problem today.
This is one of the worst things about having Trump as president. Every time he goes on TV and blurts the dumbest things in the world, the rest of us have to debate it like it's a real idea. He says, hey, I think we should take incredibly stressed out people who make $30,000 a year and give them guns. And then Wolf Blitzer has to stand there and go, well, let's ask the panel. He said it, so now I gotta ask you all. You have to give me answers like it's a real thing. And there's no evidence that anywhere close to 10 to 20% of teachers have firearms training, as Trump claims, nor is there any evidence that would actually prevent school shootings. Second, there's the question of how teachers themselves feel about this idea. And in the days since Trump floated it, the response from teachers, including those from Stoneman Douglas, have been a resounding no thanks.
You heard the president today. He, in effect, wants people like you to be on the front lines, to be armed, if you have the aptitude for it, as he described it. Is that a good idea?
No, I have no desire to own a gun, carry a gun, shoot a gun, touch a gun. And the president said that those of us who would be willing to be armed would get some kind of a bonus. I'm not even given adequate money to buy supplies for my classroom, but now if I choose to carry a gun will be provided for me and I will be given a bonus.
Now, I know we didn't get to him in the clip, but just in case you're curious, the guy on the right's pro-gun. Yeah, I know. I know you're all watching the clip. You're like, hey, what's the guy in the super clean cowboy hat thing? Very pro-gun. But seriously, the teacher is right. Teachers need supplies, not guns. The only guns that should be in schools are glue guns. And they should be used the way all students use them, to glue the shop teacher's butt to his chair. And when they're not calling for more guns in schools, gun supporters are complaining that it's actually video games and movies that are causing violence, as Trump did last week.
I'm hearing more and more people say the level of violence on video games is really shaping young people's thoughts. And then you go the further step, and that's the movies. You see these movies, they're so violent, and yet a kid is able to see the movie if sex isn't involved, but killing is involved, and maybe they have to put a rating system for that.
Does Trump not know that movies already have a rating system? I love how he's always trying to suggest things that already exist. Movies should have a rating system, and on top of that, you should have to buy a ticket. I think we can all agree. And they should have a concession stand where they sell some sort of snack made from popped corn. You could call it corn pop. But you know what? Trump is right. People are way too influenced by movies. Just take this guy as an example.
In fact, I have a license to carry in New York. Can you believe that? Nobody knows that. What was the famous movie, remember? No, remember? Where he went around and he sort of, after his wife was hurt so badly and killed. What? Charles Bronson, right? The late, great Charles Bronson. Name of the movie? Come on. Death Wish. Remember that? We're going to cut you up, sir. We're going to cut you up. Being one of the great movies. But could you imagine with Trump? Somebody says, oh, all these big monsters aren't around. He's easy pickings. And then,
And you think 17-year-olds are too immature to discuss gun control? He's literally making gun sound effects. And the wrong ones. Beak, boink, woof, 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 woof. Huh? Commentators on the right have spent the days since the Parkland shooting insisting that teenagers are somehow too immature to comment on an issue like gun reform, when in reality, the only people who sound like children are the ones using phrases like good guys and bad guys and pretending that all you need to do to stop a school shooting is have someone there to run in and go,
Bing.
This has been a closer look.